American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. Attorney General Pam Bondi says claims that President Trump violated the law by having Venezuela's president captured are incorrect. Chris Foster reports.
In addition to questions about international law, some members of Congress say the operation in Venezuela required their approval. Attorney General Bondi on Hannity on Fox says the president had the right to order the raid as commander-in-chief.
This was well within the president's Article 2 powers. It was a law enforcement function to arrest indicted individuals in Venezuela.
The now former president Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores plead not guilty to federal drug trafficking and other charges.
Everything else is still on the table, not only with them, but with other defendants who are charged.
4 co-defendants, including Maduro's son Nicolas, he's a member of Venezuela's National Assembly, none are in custody.
Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota announced yesterday that he's dropping his bid for an unprecedented third term as governor amid stinging criticism of his handling of the state's massive welfare assistance fraud scandal. But Walz says it's all the Republicans' fault.
Make no mistake about it. If Republicans continue down the path of abusing power, smearing entire communities, and running their own fraudulent game at the expense of Minnesotans, I will fight back with everything that I have. I am absolutely confident a Democratic and a DFLer will hold this seat come November.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt had this to say about Tim Walz.
President Trump has been calling out Tim Walz for his incompetence and corrupt leadership for a very long time. And Trump was right about everything. This is another example of that, which is why Governor Walz is dropping out of the race for re-election today. This is a man who can no longer even win the support of the voters within his home state because his policies have failed them.
And Minnesota isn't the only state where fraud has been uncovered. In just hours, jury selection will begin in Mississippi in the fraud trial of former WWE wrestler Ted Tobias Jr., who is accused of embezzling millions of dollars meant for Mississippi's most disadvantaged families. State Auditor Shad White says $77 million worth of fraud has been uncovered in Mississippi. He says he told Congress about this years ago, but nothing was done.
What happens is tons of federal money comes down to the states, and then that money is pushed out by grants in many cases. They go to third parties, so those third parties might be nonprofits or they might be child care centers. And I testified before Congress years ago and said all across the country there are systemic weaknesses in these programs and fraud is happening. Unfortunately, D.C. politicians did nothing, and now when we turn on our TV screens, we see fraud happening in Minnesota and lots of other places.
And finally, a recent report finds that Minnesota professors are studying so-called anti-racist parenting.
A professor and her team are in the spotlight after it was found that their anti-racist parenting research is funded by a nearly $600,000 grant. This is at the University of Minnesota. That professor is Gail Ferguson, according to the College Fix. Matt Lamb is associate editor of the College Fix.
The idea of anti-racism in general is that you can't just not be racist, that you have to actively be opposing racism. And this is from Ibram Kendi, who has sort of gone to different universities.
The research at the institution centers on, quote, an anti-racist parenting intervention for white mothers of young white children. The center uses the acronym CARPE DIEM, which it says is short for Courageous, Anti-Racist, and Reflective Parenting Efforts, Deepening Intentionality with Each Moment.
This research presupposes that white people, but also like babies, that kids, right, because this is white parenting, that they are racist and they need to be taught how to not be racist. This is, of course, being subsidized by taxpayers because this is a public university.
Lamb said the University of Minnesota wrongly assumes that little kids need to be taking the lead on opposing racism.
The best thing parents can do to encourage respect for everyone is to teach their kids that all people are deserving of dignity, deserving of respect by the nature of being a human being. And from a Christian perspective, we could say by nature of being created by God.
I'm Bronson Woodruff.
There's more news online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
Hello everyone, Tim Wildmon here. We've got some great tours lined up for 2026. Washington, D.C., George Washington's Mount Vernon, Colonial Williamsburg, historic Jamestown, Boston, Massachusetts, and that greater area. So much to see and do in 2026. If you want information on any of these trips, go to wildmongroup.com, WILDMON group.com, and we'll see you on one of our tours in 2026.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildmon, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. Today's Tuesday, January the 6th, 2026. And in studio with me on the show today is Wesley Wildmon. Good morning, Wesley.
Good morning. I thought you couldn't see me. I got my camouflage shirt on, but apparently that didn't work.
No, you know. I see what you did there. You had me
tried.
going there for a minute. Yeah, I can see.
I got this camouflage is not the official. It's a sporty camo. It's for work.
Right. So that doesn't trick the deer.
It doesn't trick the deers with an S.
The deers.
All right.
All right. All right. Chris Woodward. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
And Ray Pritchard. Good morning, brother Ray.
Good morning, Tim. How you doing today?
It's a good day. It's a good day to not be in Venezuela.
Amen.
Got that right.
Well, I take that back. I take that back. Venezuela, we hope and pray will go on from Maduro and have some sort of law and order and peace in their country, and families be reunited. But it's still a very volatile situation right there. I shouldn't have said it's great not to be in Venezuela today, because those people have suffered enough, and they're Venezuelan folks in the U.S. are celebrating what's happened there, and we're going to talk about that. What was I going to say? So Ray, give us a good word from the Holy Bible today.
So today, Marlene and I were reading through the book of, actually listening through, I should be clear about that, listening through the last part of Ecclesiastes. And when we finished with it, Tim, I should say, my wife commented, we would have heard this passage differently 20 or 25 years ago. There's this long passage in Ecclesiastes 12 which says, remember your Creator in the days of your youth. That's great advice. Usually that passage is preached to teenagers, young adults, but you read on with what he says, Tim. He says, remember your Creator while you can, before the days of adversity come. Cool. What does that mean? And the years approach of which you will say, I find no pleasure in them. Before the light of the sun, moon, and stars is darkened, and the clouds return after the rain. And verse 3 says, when the keepers of the house tremble, and the strong men stoop, when those grinding cease because they are few. And it's a description, Tim, of, well, I'm not speaking for anybody else on our esteemed panel, and it certainly cannot apply to Wesley or to Chris. It doesn't apply to you, Tim. It applies to me. I'm 73 years old. This is one of the most picturesque descriptions of what happens to the body at a certain point in life. You do stoop down. The hearing goes. Your eyesight dims. The grinders are few. Your teeth fall out. The whole body just begins to fall apart. It used to be, probably 2 or 3 years ago, and when we would have a Keep Believing board meeting, I would say, we would be talking about the different physical ailments of people we know, and I would say, guys, we're all just falling apart, and I know of no evidence to the contrary. Nobody's ever presented me with any evidence to the contrary. So you ask yourself, why do you have this detailed description at the end of Ecclesiastes? Remember your Creator. Remember Him now. Remember Him today. Remember to love Him and to serve Him and to obey Him today. Jarvis James said, if you've got a pulse, you ought to have a praise. The end of the book of Psalms says, let everything that has breath praise the Lord. So here we are, Tim. We're at the very early days of 2026, and already this year has brought some surprises. And you mentioned one in the news just this last couple of days. Oh my friends, do not put off serving the Lord. Do not put off praising the Lord. do not put off rejoicing in the Lord. While you're busy today, as we're going through this Tuesday, remember your Creator. Do it now while you have a chance. And when you are old and maybe feeble, you will still remember the Lord. And when you stand before your Creator, you'll be glad you remembered Him on earth while you had the chance.
Amen, brother.
Amen.
And as we used to say in our little Methodist church, may God add His blessings to the reading of His inspired word.
Amen.
That's what we used to say. I don't know. Maybe they say it in other.
And sometimes, I've heard that. Yeah,
Heard
His
that?
inspired word. That's right.
My dad was a Methodist preacher, and we had we had responsive readings. You heard of those?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We had responsive readings, and I just remember those. Somebody, you'd read the Bible, scripture,
Right.
and then you'd say, may God add His blessings to the reading of His holy word, basically, or something like that. Go ahead.
Well, I remember the Baptist hymnal that we used
Right.
growing up. You had the hymns, but then at the back you had the responsive readings, and there were 30 or 40 or 50 of them
Right.
for Easter and for Christmas and for graduation day. And the pastor would read the light print, and the congregation would read the dark print, and that's how you would be able to follow it as you would go down the page.
So the Baptists can be liturgical.
They can be, yes.
Okay. Well,
As
go ahead.
I'm looking at this and listening to you, Pastor Ray, Brother Ray, I would circle or highlight the word remember. That's such a gracious word because we often forget, even because we're living on this side of heaven, got a fallen world, and Satan provides a lot of distractions, and he tries to get us off script often. And so being able to know that God's gracious enough to remind us of this and that we also can remind others as well. We were doing a Bible study yesterday, or a short devotion with the family, came across Deuteronomy chapter 6, about the importance of the God's word and His commandments, and storing them in our hearts and putting them on the door facings and writing them on the tablets of our hearts and things like that. And that has to be a reminder for us to do that to our kids as well. So,
where are you reading from?
Well, I was just commenting on exactly what
Ray was talking about.
It says, "Remember also your Creator in the days," and I was emphasizing the word "remember" because we often forget.
Right.
But God's gracious enough to remind us,
Right.
because we need to be reminded often.
Amen, brother. All right. Where were you reading from, Ray, by the way?
Ecclesiastes chapter 12.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Brother Ray. And we're gonna have Jenna Ellis on at the bottom of the hour. We got some stuff to talk to Jenna about. She's the host of Jenna Ellis in the Morning from 7 to 8 o'clock Central Time every weekday here on American Family Radio. Hey, before we get to the some more news, I did get we get all kinds of emails, letters, notes, and a lot of them are handwritten. And I always know this is from the usually from the post 70 generation, with a lot of the handwritten. We get we had a lot of beautiful cards and letters. This lady wrote. I just wanted to read this. Dear Mr. Wildmon, thank you for the beautiful Christmas card of your family. We sent a Christmas card to everybody who donates to our ministry. In December, and so that's what she's referring to. So if you want a Christmas card from
That's right.
if you want a Christmas card from me this year, from us, our family,
You got 11 months.
Pony up.
That's right.
You got 11
Well,
months.
you need to make a donation.
That's right.
Give a
American
gift,
Family
get a
Radio.
card.
Well,
That's a good deal.
That's the way the world works, man.
That's right.
You want. She says, thank you for the beautiful Christmas card of your family. It was so nice to see the faces. She said, I listen every day to AFR. I discovered it at the beginning of COVID, and that has been what has kept me. She says, a 93-year-old lady. She said that's kept me going, listening to AFR. She said, I listen to today's issues every day and love the news and humor. Love Abe Hamilton, Disciples View, Jenna Ellis, Tony Perkins, and all the pastors. Keep up the good work, Christian work that you do, and doing what you can to save our country. May God bless you, and please pray for me And that was from a sweet lady in Livingston, Texas, Joreen. Joreen in Livingston, Texas.
That's nice.
We get cards and letters similar to this on a regular basis, and it's really encouraging to us to know that AFR is impacting people's lives in a positive way, and it's nice to get a card like that.
Yes, I got to tell you, in my almost 25 years of broadcasting, it's rare to hear somebody say, and I quote, "I love the news." So, thank you.
Yes. Well, we have to give the news,
do.
The good, bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the real world, and we have to know what we can do to impact it. We also have to know what we can do to pray for, right?
Yeah.
All right. So go ahead, Chris. What's our first? What's leading the news this morning?
For our viewers and listeners this morning, we are going to get into Venezuela, but first, we're going to focus for a minute on Greenland because the Trump administration remains intent, dead set, focused, whatever you want to say, on making Greenland part of the United States.
Great again.
Yes. As a matter of fact, President Trump has said we, quote, need Greenland for national security foreign policy purposes. Some of our allies are not fond of this. As a matter of fact, our friends...
You mean taking over?
Yes. Yes. Our allies, at least for right now, including Germany and the UK, they've pushed back on Trump talks. They seem to think that this would be a bad thing, that the U.S. does not need Greenland. The Danish prime minister says a U.S. attack to seize Greenland would actually end NATO. But somebody that works for the Trump administration that says we're going to get Greenland and make it part of the United States is White House advisor Stephen Miller, who had this to say, clip 7.
It has been the formal position of the U.S. government since the beginning of this administration, frankly, going back into the previous Trump administration, that Greenland should be part of the United States. The president has been very clear about that. That is the formal position of the U.S. government.
Right, but can you say that military action against Greenland is off the table?
It wouldn't be military action against Greenland. The Greenland has a population of 30,000 people, Jake. The United States should have Greenland as part of the United States. There's no need to even think or talk about this in the context that you're asking of a military operation. Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland.
30,000 people, that's all that live in Greenland?
Tupelo has more people than Greenland.
Yeah, that's right. That's amazing. I didn't know that they were that sparsely populated, 30,000 people. Listen, I don't know what to think about this. Haven't thought it through very much. But Greenland is it a sovereign country, Ray? Do you know?
No, it's a
province of Denmark, right?
Or a colony of Denmark. Yeah.
What is it called exactly? Look that up, Chris.
It is not a fully sovereign state. It's a self-governing territory within the Kingdom of Denmark.
Okay, Denmark's a kingdom?
Apparently.
Wow. Okay. Well, anyway, Greenland's basically a fishing village.
Mm-hmm. It's a giant block of ice.
A frozen fishing village.
Right.
Go ahead, Ray. Go ahead. What do you think about it? What do you think about all this?
Well, I agree almost entirely with everything you said. Don't know what to think about it, but the statement was made by somebody that the United States doesn't, quote, need Greenland. But by the same token, why does Denmark need Greenland? You know, why aren't they an independent state on their own? There are so many, they say, rare earth minerals in Greenland. Would have to be dug up under the ice and all that, but evidently there's a huge repository of minerals there. And President Trump said the other day, the Russians are snooping around there, the Chinese are snooping around there, and we need Greenland for our security. So, I mean, I don't think we're going to send in the 82nd Airborne, are we? We're not going to send in the guys we sent to Venezuela, Delta Force. We're not going to send them to Greenland, right? This is some other situation.
It could be an acquirement, or it could be a deal or a negotiation as a possibility.
Yeah, this is kind of uncharted territory. I know it's
from previous administrations.
Well, in world history, you can look at things like this that have happened. Most of the time in world history, the biggest and strongest take what they want, and And if they don't, they fight over it. That's not necessarily righteous, as they say, but that's just the way of the world. But I would ask the question like Stephen Miller was talking about there. I'm just asking a question, okay?
Right.
Does a fishing village of 30,000 people constitute a claim over the largest island in the world? Okay. Is that?
Yeah, I get that.
It's kind of like an outpost, really. So,
well, but if they don't have a claim, who does have a claim?
Well, I think that's what President Trump is arguing. That's. I don't know who. There's not many places in the world that's going unclaimed, right?
Well, that's right. That's right.
But Greenland, on the other hand, it just something seems wrong about just taking it because we can.
Yeah.
But like President Trump would point out, and Ray's talking about, Russia and China. This is a geopolitical.
I think you can make a deal.
War,
I think there's I think it's more likely that you make a deal that's so beneficial.
Who makes deals?
Do I know? Oh yeah, no, right. Exactly. President Trump.
Right.
Yeah,
the art of
the American
deal.
taxpayer.
I think you can make an art of the deal that's so good that even Greenland themselves. I'm just saying a possibility that it's so good themselves that they agree to it and want to do it.
In the town council?
In the town council, that's right, yeah. Because if you...
they're aldermen?
Another thing, and switching gears on the other side of things, as Ray mentioned, the rare earth minerals, it's also a strategic post for military and surveillance.
And that's what President Trump has said.
Yeah. Right, exactly. So
here's what President Trump has said. One of the arguments President Trump, his administration, has made on a serious note, not that the whole thing's not serious, but that we, the United States, are the major player in NATO and the major funder,
right,
funding mechanism for NATO, the North American Treaty Alliance. What does NATO stand for?
North Atlantic Treaty. Hold on a second.
Organization.
Organization. Yeah. North American Treaty Organization.
North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
North Atlantic Treaty Organization, otherwise known as NATO. NATO consists of European countries who have joined together to. It was originally created to keep Russia, former Soviet Union, from. It was a united front against the former Soviet Union. I think I got that right.
Correct.
Is that right, Ray? You know the history of that? Isn't that right?
Yeah.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Of course, the Soviet Union fell apart and became just Russia.
Right. The Russian Federation.
The Russian Federation. So the argument is that if the United States is going to be the chief military provider for NATO, we need outposts, we need places in the geographical area that is NATO that we can operate from.
Right.
And strategically, Greenland would be a place where for example, a military base, a military station would be advantageous for NATO, which Denmark is a part of.
Correct.
Okay, that's what he was saying.
I looked it up, and we are closer to Greenland than Denmark. Denmark is roughly...
By gosh, that's the only reason we need. We're closer.
Denmark is roughly 2,200 miles from Greenland, whereas the U.S. is about 1,700 miles.
Oh, we're next door neighbors.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with giving the visual or the idea that we would take it over by force. I think everybody has we've all heard this phrase that everybody has their.
We can make them an offer they can't refuse.
Everybody has their number, so to speak. And now, as part of the art of the deal, I just think that's the more likely way that this will end up. However, I understand, especially at the beginning as he was running for re-election, and even in the first couple of weeks, as this was more of a topic at that point as it is now. And of course, you got the Gulf of America, all that was going on. You had the Panama Canal. All these were in discussion. I understand at first with President Trump not saying that military boots on the ground is not. That gave us the freedom, the liberty to say things like, well, what are you going to take, start questioning things. But I think at this point, it's very clear that we're not going to I don't think we should give the visual that we're going to rush or take over by force. I think if
we're not going to take over their fishing boats.
Right, exactly.
No.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah. And I think what Ray was saying there, the visual that you got from Venezuela is not the one that you would get there. Although, by the way, the couple of things that Trump has done, such as the Venezuela situation and the Iran bombing, none of this is an ongoing war. Nobody's talking about Iran bombing anymore because it's one and done. And I think you're seeing a lot of that. I think it will be interesting down the road, looking back on the projection or the lies or the phrase or the left talking points of how we're going to endless wars when we don't want to be in endless wars, when we're not in endless wars, and everything that Trump does up to this point is in and out. So comparatively speaking, obviously there's a transition period, but in the Venezuela situation, but there is no endless wars. Everything thus far is benefiting America. Mm-hmm. So I think we're on the right track. So, all right, so Greenland, here we come.
Yeah.
I do have a...
Hello, Greenland.
Welcome,
Uncle Sam.
Yeah, that's right.
It's been years ago. I don't remember if this is before COVID or maybe right after it when churches reopened. But I, here at my church, here in the Tupelo area, a missionary to Greenland spoke at our church. I don't remember what my brother in Christ's name is, but I remember he got up there and he was like, "Hey, I'm so-and-so. I'm a missionary to Greenland. Yes, there are people on Greenland." And I've often thought of, like, what would it be like to come home and say, honey, I've been called to be a missionary to Greenland. But Ray, I mean, maybe there's an opportunity for you to preach the gospel to believers in Greenland.
Or look, how about AFR Greenland?
Yeah.
We need a station.
AFR Greenland.
We need a station up there,
Greenland.
So
I nominate
Tim,
Steve Jordahl to be the one to take that trip over there and cover that ribbon cutting.
And work out the details, right?
I'll stay here.
Tim, how much today are you willing to pay for Greenland?
Yeah.
A couple of fishes and 2 boats and...
Okay. I think we've used up our Greenland time here. But you know what? In all seriousness, I was looking at a post here. A gentleman is commenting on this, and he says that why Greenland? Because this is a post on X from something called Object Zero. It says, why Greenland? Well, because Moscow bases, that's Russia, bases almost all of its strategic military assets on the Kola Peninsula next to Finland.
Yeah.
This is where the Russian ICBM silos, submarine bases, and their strategic bombers are.
I think Finland's a part of NATO. That's one of their newer members.
So if you look at the flight path, ballistic or powered, from Kola, that's where the Russians are, to anywhere on the lower 48, then everything goes over Greenland. So this militarily would be a very strategic place for the Americans to be, is in Greenland, if no other reason for what we're talking about right here.
And
I don't know if the Kola Peninsula, which I had not heard of, next to Finland, that may be something like Greenland, where there really is no country per se. You would have to look that up. Kola Peninsula, next to Finland.
I got you.
But so it sounds kind of humorous to talk about taking Greenland.
Especially early on.
Yes. But it was a...
Yeah, it's not so funny if you're living in Greenland, right?
But I imagine that if Greenland, if you pay each one of those fishermen enough...
That's what I was going to say.
You know what I'm saying?
We'll double your boat size.
Right, we'll double your boat size.
We'll upgrade your boat size. We'll make it a smart boat.
Right.
Instead
You're
of
like
a dumb
the fish
boat.
in Miami.
Yeah.
Here's the money.
All right, we'll be back with Jenna Ellis in a moment. Stay with us. You're listening to Today's Issues on the American or Greenland Family Network here. We'll be back.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildmon.
Jesus once said that if a blind man leads a blind man, both will fall into a pit. Well, the truth of those words happened a few years ago in Malaysia. A cross-country race was held. The race was to cover a 7-mile course. 2 hours after the race had begun, ample time for the runners to cover the course. None of the runners had returned. The officials, fearing that something might have happened, set out in automobiles to find the runners. The officials found all the runners 6 miles away and sprinting in the wrong direction. Many of the runners had already covered distances of 10 miles. A.J. Rogers, the association secretary that sponsored the race, said the mix-up apparently occurred when the lead runner took a wrong turn at the 5th checkpoint, and the rest followed him. Sometimes this happens. We play follow the leader without knowing where the leader is going. We do things simply because someone else does them. We make our decisions because someone else has made the same decision before us. And while this is not always bad, it most certainly isn't always good. All of us should be aware of where it is that we're going. One of the greatest mistakes so many make in our society is that of running as fast as they can, following the person in front of them, trying desperately to catch up, and not knowing where the fellow they are following is headed. Occasionally someone will come along who will consider where it is that he wants to go. He stops long enough to study where following the man in front will lead. These people make up their own minds about which way the race should be going. The Galilean was a fellow like this. There was a full-fledged race going on when he came upon the scene. All the runners were following the leaders. They were pushing with all they had to keep up to be abreast, racing with the crowd. The leaders had always run their path, and they never questioned its authenticity. They simply took for granted that the runner in front was going the right way. Then he came into the race. He saw where those who were supposed to be leading the race were headed, and he knew that that was not the path that the judge had set for the race. So he stopped, took note of the roads, and headed off in another direction. And since he was the leader in this new direction, the leaders that were going in the other direction became very angry that he should do such a thing. Why didn't he follow them like all the other runners? Of course, the only thing to do was to belittle him and eventually get rid of him. He could prove dangerous to the course they were leading. You know, somehow this same idea of following the leader that prevailed back then is still around today. If the first car passes an injured man on the highway, all the others are supposed to do the same. If one man makes a joke about Christian values or Christians, then all the others are supposed to do the same. If one person shuns another because of a different color, then we must all shun him. It's a game we play. We call it follow the leader. I believe I would rather know where I'm going than to be in a hurry to follow the person in front of me.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildmon, a production of the American Family Association.
Jesus said, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." Matthew 19:14.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. Tim, Wesley, Chris, and Ray. We are, hope you're having you're off to a good start here in January. It's New Year. And me personally, I'm looking forward to summer. Because January's the coldest month for us here where we live. It doesn't mean anything to Ray and Jenna. But, and I say cold's relative.
Sure. Yeah.
People in Minnesota go, Indiana and the upper north, they don't know. They say cold. You don't know what cold is. And you're right. And I don't want to know.
Right. Yeah. Please don't ever transfer me.
Right. This is as cold as we want to get it.
Tim?
Yeah.
At the moment, it is sunny and 74 here in Hudson, I can get you a tea time at 1:30. Not a problem.
Yeah, that's why you moved down there.
That's exactly
That's why
right.
you moved down there. You're there for the Ray and Marlene officially became snowbirds.
That's exactly right.
Snowbirds. So but you paid your dues with how many years in the Chicago Winters?
17 years.
17 years in Chicago Winters.
We had to fly back up to Chicago over the weekend for a funeral of a dear friend, and it was 70-some degrees when we left Florida, and we got off the plane in Chicago. I turned to Marlene and I said, "We've gone to Siberia." It's amazing, Tim, how quickly you get used to this warm weather in January,
Yeah.
I don't miss the snow in there.
But you ought to write a book sometime about that because you're an Alabama boy.
That's right.
And so you grew up in the South and then spent 17 winters and where did you pastor there, by the way?
Oak Park, Illinois. That's a suburb on the west side of Chicago.
Okay. That's how you and I first became friends.
That's right.
You would come here to visit your brother.
That's right.
In the summer, you drive down from Chicago to Tupelo. Right. Your brother lived here in Tupelo, and you were at that time you were writing
a bunch of books, and so met Marvin Sanders that way, and in the old studios, you know.
Yeah.
And
must that have been 20 years ago?
Yeah. No, more than that.
Yeah.
That'd be more like almost 30 years ago.
30 years ago.
Back in the late 90s when I first met you. Yeah.
Yeah, you would come down and we would interview you about whatever book you had coming out and talk to you, and then we became friends, and then
the rest is history.
Yeah, you came on our board of directors, and then you also began to co-host with us here on Today's Issues. Anyway, I know you. So if people want to say, well, you don't know what cold is, no, Ray does know what cold is.
I do.
17 winters in Chicago.
You learn quick.
He's paid his cold weather dues.
That's
okay? Right. All right, you're listening to Today's Issues on AFR. Joining us now is our colleague and friend, Jenna Ellis. Jenna is no, she's not co-host, unless she's got a dual personality, which she might have, and I'm not judging her. But she is the host of Jenna Ellis in the Morning, heard weekdays here on American Family Radio from 7 to 8 o'clock Central Time each weekday morning, with analysis of news and events of the day from a biblical worldview and constitutional perspective. Good morning, Jenna.
Good morning. Happy New Year. And I think my co-hosts are my two dogs, Copper and Todd.
That's
They're
right.
actually my P-A-W, podcast co-hosts.
Yeah, I see what you did there.
Now,
you live in Florida, too, but you paid your winter dues in Colorado, right?
I did, yes. I grew up in Colorado, and it was always so great to come to Florida. My family would come to Florida almost every year around like late April, May, and we would leave the literal blizzard of Colorado and come to the sunshine in Florida, and it's great to have that year-round now.
Yeah. Now, do you know if has the snow been enough to supply the ski resorts out there? Because I was reading about how some places across the country they're having to. Go ahead.
There hasn't been a lot of snow in Colorado currently. In fact, I was out there for about 2.5 weeks over Christmas break, and we only got like a light dusting. But that was more, in the foothills. But it's been it's been a pretty not snowy winter currently, and so they're having to supplement with some of the snow machines and all that. But really, it's kind of weird how it shifted a little bit from when I grew up, but it seems like now the heaviest snowfall is between January and March instead of like the November to February. Yeah.
All right, Jenna.
Still
I know this morning you focused on Venezuela. Talk about that if you would. What's the big story here?
Yeah, so this was, Trump didn't waste his holiday break at all. So I think we all, woke up to the news as well that this very strategic operation in Venezuela to capture Nicolas Maduro, who is at least not by the United States terms the unrecognized president, but sort of self-appointed. president of Venezuela. And so he has been taken into custody and, in fact, yesterday made a first appearance in a federal New York courtroom on an indictment that was handed down by a federal grand jury back during the Trump administration's first term. So then Attorney General Bill Barr has made some comments that he thinks it's very ironclad and that there will be a conviction on drug-related charges, among other things. And so that's one piece of it. But I had a former CIA intelligence officer on my program this morning who made a really interesting point that everybody's talking about now, how the United States is basically in control of Venezuela's oil supply, and how they have been the purveyors to China of oil. And now President Trump has said to China, you'll still get your oil from Venezuela, but basically is telling them that that's on the administration's good graces. So this is likely going to kind of keep China on their heels, maybe even more effectively than tariffs. So we won't be seeing an invasion of Taiwan anytime soon. So this has a lot more broad-reaching implications for foreign policy for the United States. There have also been some commentary about how the Tren de Aragua gang members from Venezuela that made headlines during the election in actually Aurora, Colorado, which I know very well coming from Colorado, how those gang members that were committing a lot of crimes, acts of violence, now have absolutely no reason to be in the United States, even though they didn't to begin with, but how a lot of Venezuelans can return now to their home country, rebuild, and so a lot of that refugee status won't be available to them. And so this is part of the Trump administration's overall plan to ensure that we have effective not only border control, but more mass deportations. And a lot of these now will be self-deportations back. So a lot going on with this. And it's amazing that just one strategic, effective targeting of Maduro has accomplished quite a lot of not only foreign policy, but domestic policy goals.
Who do we deal with now? By we, I mean the United States government. President Trump says basically that we, the U.S., are at least temporarily running things in the country. There is that. Do you know?
It's going to be interesting. And I don't know that there's a specific process per se, right. But who is going to perhaps, claim the presidency, whether that was, he doesn't seem too keen on the woman, I'm forgetting her name, who actually they're saying was the legitimately elected president, but right. For some of the fraud that occurred, whether they'll hold a new election. Certainly conservatives in the U.S. are suggesting that the United States shouldn't try to be in control of the regime change, but more facilitate and oversee it. I'm assuming that Secretary of State Marco Rubio will take a huge part in that, at least on behalf of the United States, but it'll be interesting to see.
I remember I read one of the articles that was sent around that up until 2031, the lady that is in there now is the interim, and then they're going to have a re-election.
In 5 years?
That's what I remember. I think that's what I read.
Have another
I'll
election?
double check that, yeah.
In 5 years? Well, anyway, it'll be interesting to see. I do know for a fact that Venezuelans who are in the United States, not those gang members you talked about, but just the average Venezuelan who came here because of the brutal dictatorship. They came here to escape a political persecution, basically, that they are celebrating in the streets in Miami and other places in the country where they have, they have people who in the communities, the Venezuelan communities here based in the United States, because of even on The View.
Yes, and we have some audio.
Even
here.
on The View. I know people have been waiting to me to say
Even on The View, yeah.
Which I've never watched it in entirety.
You haven't missed anything.
I don't have it on my record on my TV at home. So The View I only know about because it's in the news almost every day so there's a story about what they said on The View.
Mm-hmm.
View is that television show with those 4 liberal women, sometimes 5, and then they got one person, What's the conservative?
The Republican in name only.
Yeah.
That
really,
one.
yeah.
What's her?
That one. Alyssa Farah Griffin is the current
Yes.
installation. Yeah.
She plays the part of the conservative on there. So
they usually get one.
By
every
the way,
season.
I knew her dad really well.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't talked to him in years, but I did know him and worked together with him. Joe Farah. Some people may remember here from what was called WorldNet Daily. But anyway, Alyssa, is that her name?
Yes.
She is that her name, Jenna?
Yes. Yes.
She is Joe Farah's daughter. So anyway, do we have the video, the audio from that? Because I did want to play this because it is. I think that there's some very good points made by one of the commentators on The View.
And one of these is surprising because co-host Ana Navarro, who usually finds something about President Trump to complain about, was actually glad to see that Nicolas Maduro was taken out of power, was deposed or removed, captured, whatever somebody wants to say. So here's an exchange between Ana Navarro and then Whoopi Goldberg, another liberal on The View there. Clip 11.
So while perhaps no one is going to miss a tyrant like Maduro, is this a legal thing? I mean, who voted for this? Who said, hey, go on in there and do this?
Your question, who voted for this? The people in South Florida. The Venezuelan community, the Cuban American community, the Nicaraguan American community voted for this. And for us, this is a very, very happy day when we see a dictator who has been part of oppressing and abusing the Venezuelan people for 25 years. When we see him in handcuffs and held to some sort of accountability, it brought me into tears. It brought me great joy. And, I live in South Florida.
But are you okay with the way that it was done?
But you can, I think both things can be true.
Okay.
I think you can criticize and ask questions and have concerns about the way it was done and what this means in the future.
Right.
And I think you can still celebrate that this murderous, corrupt, sadistic is out of Venezuela.
Wow. What do you think about that, Ray? That was...
Well, terrific statement.
That was a liberal.
Right, a liberal actually praising what happened. Jen, I wanted to ask you about this. Okay, so let's assume, for argument's sake, that everything in the indictment is true, which I think it is factually true, that he's a narco-terrorist and his wife was involved too. So he's gone, but there had to be a whole organization, right? He had his lieutenants and his supporters and the people who were fueling the drug trade and the illegal stuff. I mean, at that level, there had to be a lot of other people involved in this criminal activity. So what happens now? Well, that's really a good question. What happens now? How do you begin even to bring these other people to justice in one way or another?
Well, it reminds me a little bit of what's going on in Minnesota with Governor Tim Walz and all of the fraud that's going on there, because you know that a lot of people were involved. And I hope to similarly see more than just one investigation, more than just one indictment. Obviously, Minnesota is a little bit easier in terms of, being domestic in terms of jurisdiction. But I think with respect to Maduro, what starts to happen is the interrogation and, the depositions and some of these things that if Maduro talks and he names names, and he may implicate, people in other countries. I mean, then that's going to have to get sorted out and see, is there some kind of extradition where they can be brought to justice in the United States, maybe even in other countries, if that's ultimately what he testifies to. So I think that whatever Maduro has to say on the record is going to indicate, I think, a lot where the next steps go. But in terms of the prosecution, I also had on another lawyer this morning, Jared Folletti, who's senior counsel for the Lawfare Project, and he said that the federal jurisdiction in New York, actually their process where Maduro currently is, moves pretty rapidly. So we could even see this whole process completed before the November election this year, which is really rapid compared to other jurisdictions. But then also my home state in Florida, Governor DeSantis has indicated that he and our attorney generals in the state are looking at potential charges out of Miami for Maduro. So, this may not be over yet with just one indictment in New York, but certainly I would expect others for other individuals to follow.
Did you see where the judge overseeing this case with Maduro in New York, be a federal judge, right?
Yes.
He's 92 years old. Huh?
Maybe he's one of the sane people left in New York. So, because I was pretty impressed with him kind of cutting off Maduro, saying, this isn't the time and place to protest your arrest and make political statements. I just need a, guilty or not guilty.
Yeah. So. I just thought, man, that guy's,
He was also quoted as saying he doesn't care what other people think about him.
Yeah, he's been eating his Wheaties, evidently.
And
there.
good for him. I mean, the Bible doesn't speak to retirement and just, going off and living life for yourself. So, he's still on the bench, and good for him.
92 years young, a federal judge. That's amazing. And they have lifetime appointments, so, he's evidently using that to the max, huh? 92. All right. Well, Jenna, what's coming up on your show tomorrow? Do you know yet? I guess it depends on what happens this afternoon.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
tonight.
It can always change sort of last minute, but we usually sketch out kind of where we want to go. And
Right.
I'm going to be talking about AI and what's what the latest developments are with a special guest that we like to have on from time to time, Patrick Hedger from NetChoice, and then also our friend Troy Miller from the National Religious Broadcasters wants to come on and talk about how NRB is helping to combat Christian persecution worldwide, and then also advocating still for AM radio in every vehicle act, just to ensure that that side of radio can still continue as a public service.
That's tomorrow morning on Jenna Ellis in the morning. One thing about AI, which is short for artificial intelligence, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is which some of my teachers said I had. But here I am. I'm still standing. Artificial.
And you're not even 92 yet.
Even
so.
if my intelligence is artificial. And I'm not even 92 yet. Yeah, I got 30 years to go before I can
there you go.
be a federal judge, I guess. The thing about it is the artificial intelligence, like much of technology, is going to cut both ways.
That's right.
It's going to be very helpful to mankind, and Elon Musk has talked about this and others, but it's going to be, and it's already helping in a lot of ways. It's going to have a lot to do with medical breakthroughs on how to, treat diseases and so forth. There's a lot of great things happening right now with the world of AI, but then the problem is the dark side of it. And I was reading another story about these deep fakes that are out there, and I saw a video yesterday, I guess it was a funny video of Maduro being the janitor at the White House in the Oval Office. Have you guys seen this? Did you see this, Jenna?
Yeah, I've seen a few deep fakes.
Then everybody knows what I'm talking. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. It's very funny to watch. I don't know if you call it a meme. It's a meme video, M-E-M-E video, but it looks so real.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
It does.
Not surreal. It looks so real. I'm just going. Pretty soon somebody's going to do a video that is going to go viral, that's going to have negative impacts around the world that people are going to believe, because they.
Well, it reminds me of that radio program one time, and I'm forgetting exactly the context.
Orson Welles.
Yeah. When they were talking about the alien invasion.
Yes,
and it
back
was
in the
satire,
30s or 40s. Ray, when was that? You lived back then, didn't you?
1938.
You heard the broadcast.
Right.
Yeah, and people heard the broadcast. They thought it was real, and they didn't catch kind of the disclaimer at the beginning. And that's what, artificial intelligence, the danger of that is that before verification, people are going to believe these things. But the good thing is the proliferation of that has been so widespread that even things that are real, people are going, oh, that's got to be AI. I don't even believe it. And so I almost think that some of the danger will be the opposite way, that when we do have actual video of real life events, people won't believe that and they'll assume it's AI. So we kind of have that twofold problem.
Allison, somebody sent Allison and my wife a video the other day of like an Instagram thing with this, and once most people know what these are. These little short clips, like 10-second, 15-second.
Yeah,
30-second videos. What do you call those?
Shorts.
It was Instagram, although you have the same thing on YouTube because I've wasted some hours there too. And that is these little short videos. But you could tell they're making little videos about animals and kids and stuff like that, and you can sort of say that's not real.
That's right.
That's but they're funny when they are real and they're natural. But you're going like, you're telling me somebody had a video camera right when the dog hugged the baby.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can tell that it's a fake video.
Well,
although I'm recording my dogs almost 24/7 with all my pictures, so that one I would believe.
It's funny you mentioned that. You're telling me that they happen to have a camera rolling. People said that when Kamala Harris and Tim Walz were shopping for Doritos in a gas station. Remember that?
Yes.
And people were like, "Oh, how coincidental that there happened to be a camera." Yeah.
What now?
When they were running
this
for
was a great moment in American politics.
Yes, it was. When they were running for election, Kamala and Tim Walz stopped somewhere, and Kamala was trying to be like, one of us by shopping for Doritos, and Governor Tim Walz helped her find the Doritos at a gas station. And then upon further review, they actually learned that there were different takes. Like they had cameras at different angles, and they went around and like edited the video together.
Oh, okay. So it was not. It was phony.
Yes.
Phony baloney.
As was her campaign.
Okay. Well, Chris, that was unnecessary.
Well, she's not in the White House.
But it was accurate. All right. Thank you, Jenna. Take
thanks.
care.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. That's Jenna Ellis joining us from the Sunshine State, where Ray resides. Yeah. All right. You're listening to today's issues on American Family Radio. Tim, Wesley, Chris, and Ray. Do you get how much longer has deer season got now here in Mississippi?
3 weeks left.
3 weeks left.
Yeah, but you know what? It's always something on the baseball.
Yeah. Yeah, but you love deer hunting.
Yeah, love deer hunting.
Yeah. How many did you get a big buck this year?
Yeah. I hope my wife's not listening right now.
Okay. Why is that?
Turkey season's around the corner.
Turkey season it follows deer
That's
season.
Right.
I didn't know that.
And then you got fishing. And then you got.
Oh yeah.
The great outdoors. It never.
But in all,
stops,
in all seriousness,
the deer season was going.
The what now?
The deer. You got you a big.
Oh
buck.
yeah, I got me a big buck. But in all seriousness, I've enjoyed. My kids are falling in love with it as much as I do, and so they
don't
are.
have a choice because you drag them with you.
That's right. Yes.
But I say drag them. They want to go now.
No, I did. No, you did. They don't.
Yeah.
They really don't have a choice early on. But then when they're 6, when they're 5.
Right.
But but the way that I do things, I like to believe that I make it enjoyable to the point where they want to do it. And so the other day, my middle daughter, she's 7. She said she overheard me and my oldest son 10, who's a big hunter, that we were going hunting, and she overheard it and said, "Well, I haven't got to go in the morning before. When you go in the morning, it's usually very early, and it can be cold." And she said she wanted to go. It's not fair. She never gets to go in the morning. I thought, well, okay. Yeah. So, anyways, I woke her up and she went, and all went well. So.
Well, my dad didn't hunt, so I didn't grow up hunting. But your granddad on your mom's side taught you how to hunt. Ray, did you grow up hunting?
No. Yeah. My dad did some quail hunting.
Yeah.
Around Oxford, but no, not really.
There's a lot of memories made in the woods.
Yeah.
Dad right now is looking at a picture.
Talking about Dad, me?
You were looking at a picture of Anna Wesley. This is her right after I shot my big buck. She was coloring in the deer stand.
Yeah, she's 4, right?
Yeah, she's 4. She's in her Christmas pajamas.
Well, Wesley built a luxury deer
I
stand.
did do that.
Sounds like it.
So there's room for everybody up there.
Trump Towers.
And so
got a golden toilet.
4-year-old daughter can color while he's scoping a buck.
That's right.
I love it.
All right. Well, we shall take a break. Chris, thank you for your invaluable contributions to this show.
You're welcome.
Yes. We shall return momentarily with Steve Paisley-Jordahl and more of today's issues. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
Do you know the largest unpaid and untrained workforce in America? It's not in a factory or an office. It's the 65 million family caregivers. And if that is you, I understand the journey you're on.
Peter Rosenberger has been a caregiver for 4 decades. He's the host for Hope for the Caregiver, Saturday mornings at 7 Central on AFR.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. President Trump addressing GOP lawmakers at the Trump Kennedy Center in Washington as House lawmakers return from their holiday recess. The president rallying Republicans around their legislative priorities and touting his administration's accomplishments in his first year back in office.
So together we had 12 months of unprecedented success in 2025, and now we're going to make history and break records with the epic midterm victory that we're going to pull off.
Following the arrest of Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro and his wife, who are facing narco-terrorism and other charges, the predictable protest took place in New York, with many holding signs saying, "Free Maduro." Germania Rodriguez-Palacio is a Venezuelan-American journalist and says these protesters have no idea what they're even protesting.
It's disgusting, both as an American and as a Venezuelan. It's so obvious there's not one Venezuelan in those protests. These people are disrespecting our tragedy, are disrespecting our political prisoners, those we have lost, those who are still in Venezuela's jails, those who are still starving. It's absolutely shameful, and it's a matter, in my opinion, of a threat to national security that our nation's youth and so many are willing to do this against victims of a criminal dictatorship.
The Trump administration is doubling down on its demands for Greenland following the capture of deposed Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, which has nations in Europe concerned. Greg Palcott has more from London.
In a broadcast interview, the president said, "We need Greenland for national security. We're very serious." And in another interview, Trump policy advisor Stephen Miller declared Greenland rightfully belonged to the U.S. In a joint statement, the leaders of France, Germany, Italy, Poland, Spain, Britain, and Denmark said Greenland belongs to its people, and only Denmark and Greenland can decide on matters concerning their relations. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen's new argument against the move, it would mean the end of NATO. Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Nielsen simply saying the U.S. cannot conquer Greenland. In earlier comments, Trump seemed to set a 20-day deadline for discussion of the matter.
Minnesota Democrat Governor Tim Walz has announced he will not seek another term. He's been under a firestorm for massive fraud in his state. Minnesota Republican gubernatorial candidate Kendall Qualls on Walz is not seeking re-election.
I can't tell you who's celebrating more, Minnesotans or the people of Venezuela. I think there's a competition there going because of this resignation. I can tell you his tenure here, his 2 terms have been an absolute disaster.
And finally, the Mamdani administration has been open about setting up a socialist government in the largest city in America. Steve Jordahl reports that may mean the end of private property in New York City.
This might be the ultimate saying the quiet part out loud. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani's tenant director, Sia Weaver, says that for too long we've treated property as belonging to individuals, not the collective.
We are going to transitioning to treating it as a collective good and towards a model of shared equity.
That's bad news for homeowners in New York City.
Families, especially white families, but some POC families who are homeowners as well, are going to have a different relationship to property than the one that we currently have.
It remains to be seen if she can really do this, but Washington Times columnist Robert Knight says Mamdani and the young team he's surrounded himself with went through the American university systems that are peddling Marxism as the only correct way to look at life.
They have imbued these students with a hatred for America as it is, hatred for capitalism, which has produced untold wealth and freedom.
He says socialism has some great ideas if you missed the entire 20th century.
You can't find any successful socialism anywhere in the world. All you find is misery, widespread poverty, and tyranny, up to and including mass murder. This is communism, pure and simple. She is saying that private property no longer exists in New York City that it's collective ownership, which means you don't own anything. The government owns it.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
For American Family News, I'm Rusty P.
Hello, everyone. Tim Wildmon here. We've got some great tours lined up for 2026. Washington, D.C., George Washington's Mount Vernon, Colonial Williamsburg, historic Jamestown, Boston, Massachusetts, and that greater area. So much to see and do in 2026. If you want information on any of these trips, go to wildmongroup.com, WILDMON group.com, and we'll see you on one of our tours in 2026.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildmon, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's Issues on the American Family Radio. Steve Paisley Jordahl joins us now. Good morning, Steve.
I do. Good morning, everybody.
How are you, brother?
I'm well. I am well.
Right.
Thank you.
You having a little carpal tunnel?
Yeah, I got surgery coming up on Thursday. I won't be in on the show on Thursday.
Say a prayer for Steve.
It's a common surgery. I got carpal tunnel in my right hand. I haven't felt my thumb or first two fingers in months, which makes it hard to pick things up and to type.
Can you type?
It hurts. I can't. It's slow, and it really hurts. So I'm going to have that surgery on Thursday, and hopefully I'll be back on the following Monday. I might not be full use, but I should be conscious and able to contribute. So,
all right. Well, I'm Tim with Wesley, and Ray is with us too, and we're glad to have you listening to American Family Radio. So, Ray, your Ole Miss Rebels play Thursday night. You going to be watching that?
Yes, sir. You know, I think I'm a typical football fan. You're a believer, but you're a skeptic. You doubt your own team, right?
Oh, yeah. It's part of being American.
It's when we played Georgia at the half, I knew there was no way Ole Miss was going to come back on Georgia and win that game. And it took some.
Well, I do think the psyche changes depending on how many years you win. Like Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia, they go into the game thinking they're going to dominate, and they don't. Something's wrong with the world.
That's right.
But, if you're a new kid on the block with the big boys like Ole Miss, you just wonder, hey, when am I going to wake up from this dream I'm having?
Exactly right.
Now, Miami's the 10th graded team. It's number 10 in the bracket. Now, it has been.
You mean the team Ole Miss plays Thursday night in Arizona?
Is the number 10 team in the bracket.
Seeding.
But they have beat Texas A&M and they beat Ohio State. So I think they're formidable, but they are not they're not the first ranked team. So.
I think this is just a guess. This is Wesley. No, but did y'all even ask what I think about this?
No, we care.
Okay.
We do.
I think that Miami has exhausted every strategy and every thought and idea and every effort just to win, to beat A&M, which I didn't think they could do, and then beat Ohio State, which I didn't think they can do. So I think I give Ole Miss a 4-point advantage here.
Do you really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, of course, Wesley and I are Mississippi State fans, and we're glad football season's over. And we keep reminding people like Ray and our Ole Miss friends, who many of them live amongst us here.
We live amongst you.
We have to live together.
As we coexist.
Us Ole Miss and Mississippi State fans, we ain't like Ohio State and Michigan, where you're separated by a border.
That's right.
We're
everything's intermingled here. Intermarried.
That's right. That's right, brother. So I just have to keep reminding my Ole Miss friends that to keep the important things in life, and college football should not be. You know what I'm saying? I think you're taking this far too seriously. And so I try to remind them about how the priorities.
Somehow, it doesn't sound like the most sincere thing you've ever said.
I'm trying to remind them that we should have priorities in life, and college football really shouldn't be in the top 10 if you want to maintain your Christian witness. So, Ray, am I convinced?
Unless your team is in the semifinals, and that's an exception to that rule.
And they move in the top 3.
Yeah, unless your team's at the top, in which case you move into the idolatry.
Yeah,
that's right. You're got a completely different kind of problem now.
Yeah, that's funny because the excitement level, and I know it's the same way in Indiana and Oregon and Miami, but especially especially for Indiana fans and for Ole Miss fans who haven't been in this position before, to be in the final 4 teams of all of college football is just, it's the closest thing to college football heaven that you can get besides winning it all. So it's pretty amazing. And so we'll see how it turns out Thursday and Friday night.
Well, okay.
All right, go ahead.
Since you brought it up.
All right, I brought it up.
Wesley already, he picked a 4-point spread.
You picked Ole Miss to beat Miami, Wesley?
Yeah, that's what's going to happen.
Okay, it's what's going to happen, he says.
Okay, and he knows he's the handicapper, but
I'm going to pick them as well.
Okay.
I'm going to pick
Who you picking on the other side?
I'm going to pick the Ole Miss Rebels and the Indiana Hoosiers.
Yep, that's what's going to happen.
To play in the national championship.
Are you looking at my score sheet?
No, I just think. Listen, Oregon and Miami.
They're a very good team.
Oregon and Miami are great teams too. So I mean, it's probably going to be 2 great games on Thursday night and Friday night. But for those fan bases, Ole Miss and Indiana, it's like they're living a dream. Okay, don't wake me up. So, do we have that comment from Trinidad Chambliss?
We do.
Okay, this gentleman, young man, I say young man compared to me, he's the quarterback for the Ole Miss Rebels, and he has quite a story. He was recruited to Ole Miss after he was not recruited in high school to a Division I school. I'm talking about. He's from the state of Michigan, and his name is Trinidad. I've never heard that name for a first name for somebody, but I think it has something to do with his mom and her Christian faith. Trinidad, I think so. Maybe. I could be wrong about that. But do you have the clip from him?
I do, yeah. This is him. He was talking, this is after the game, and a reporter asked him a question. This is what he answered, cut 12.
After they beat Georgia.
Now you've won the Sugar Bowl to advance in the college football playoff. How did this happen?
Man, Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. Through and through, he's been with me. Ups and the downs, man. I just got to give thanks to God. It's been amazing, amazing journey. I got to thanks to Oxford community, Ole Miss, for giving me the opportunity to play here.
If you didn't hear it, he said thanks to Jesus. He's been with him through the ups and downs.
Right. That's the key part I wanted to focus on, the ups and downs. Wasn't that Jesus,
helped him win the game.
Jesus made me win. It's that Jesus Christ has been with him through his ups and downs. And I saw his mom hugging him and talking about they were talking about her faith.
Also, too, you emphasized, he said, I appreciate Ole Miss for giving me an opportunity, a chance to play the game.
Yeah, because, I mean, as I say, he was a Division II or III quarterback.
Division II at Ferris State.
Ferris State. And then now he's on the national scene in the college playoffs. It's like a storybook. And he wouldn't have been in that position had the starting quarterback for Ole Miss not been hurt.
That's right.
Earlier in the season, who is a great quarterback in his own right. All right, well, a lot of individual storylines. We'll see what happens on Thursday and Friday. All right, Steve, what do you got?
We got a very interesting story involving Scott Adams, who's the creator of the Dilbert cartoon. But before we get to that, just something that just crossed my path I wanted to tell you about. The New York City Mayor, Zoran Mamdani, has put in place a new rule.
This is good.
That allows mosques to amplify the call to prayer in Manhattan or throughout New York City.
I thought you were going to cover the part where they increased the...
Well, they increased the bus fare that is supposed to be free. But no, this is... We're deciding not to play the
actual audio.
Call to prayer
We're sparing everybody.
No, I think we need to hear it. Do we have it?
We're sparing everybody.
Okay, just let me make sure people understand what's going on here. Zoran Mamdani is the new mayor of New York City. He is he says he's a Muslim. Okay, I'm just saying, some Muslims would probably say he's not a real Muslim because he's very secular in many of his ways. However, the Muslim countries, you will hear the call for prayer over loudspeakers 5 times a day.
Starting at 5 in the morning.
And it's not a pleasant sound.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and also, are we sure we want to play it? Because it does. I don't want our audience to know we're not giving credence or we're not sharing our platform.
It's in the background a little bit.
Okay.
And it's narrated a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted people who've not heard it. If you've been to the Middle East, you've heard it before, or to a Muslim country, you've heard it before.
But this is Miami. This is Manhattan.
Sorry, yeah,
Manhattan.
The
And
largest
so
city.
he's saying that the mosque can play over the loudspeakers the call to prayer 5 times a day.
That, on Fridays.
This is not going to be good.
And nightly during Ramadan.
All right, listen to see if you can hear this.
I think we are hearing Azan. Come here.
I think we take pretty off Texas stuff.
Yeah.
That's Manhattan.
Yeah, I don't see how you're going to be able to allow that just for noise pollution, even more than it is
Noise
for
pollution. I appreciate
well, I mean,
well, they are. They're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens there. But what if you have 10 different mosques want to play the same thing five times a day?
Yeah.
5 times a day
On Fridays. And
Listen, some Wesley, you laugh, but I mean there are city ordinances in many
I know, but
places.
the word pollution is what was fun. But
I don't know what you well, I don't know what you call it.
Hey,
I'm
not chuckling at you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, my feelings are at stake here, and I don't appreciate you making fun of me.
That's fair. I don't apologize.
Yeah, I have feelings.
if
on
I
this.
was like like Brooklyn Tabernacle or what's the city in Manhattan, I would just go ahead and put on
Wrap
the
it up.
Bible.
You want
The Bible reading
you
over
want
the
your
loudspeaker.
Muslim call to prayer? We'll one up you right here.
That's right.
We'll give you the Brooklyn Tabernacle Choir.
That's right. Singing Deuteronomies.
Cities can't allow that kind of thing, not 5 times a day, maybe for special occasions. And there are probably church bells that go off, once an hour just to ring the.
This is a flag. This is planting a flag.
Yeah.
This is claiming territory.
Yeah. All right, you're listening to today's issues anyway. That's New York City, and I'm not going to live there.
No.
So
nope.
I'll visit there once a year when I have to fly out from. But yeah, there's a lot of great things in New York City to see, but a lot of things to avoid. Go ahead.
A lot of us in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s were fans of Dilbert. Remember Dilbert, the office worker that was forlorn and
very popular
high-tech-
comic strip.
Yeah, especially I worked in the Silicon Valley at the time, and it was like required reading. Scott Adams is the author and the cartoonist that did Dilbert, and he has been very public lately with a battle that he's having with cancer, and he is terminal. He says he has weeks to months to weeks to live. And so he has decided to convert to Christianity before he dies. And I want you to hear it in his own words, and then I want to talk about this, especially with Ray. Let's listen to cut 13.
When I talk about my own impending death, many of my Christian friends and Christian followers say to me, Scott, you still have time. You should convert to Christianity. I've not been a believer, but I also have respect for any Christian who goes out of their way to try to convert me. Because how would I believe you believe your own religion if you're not trying to convert me? You're going to hear for the first time today that it is my plan to convert. So I still have time, but my understanding is you're never too late. And on top of that, any skepticism I have about reality would certainly be instantly answered if I wake up in heaven. I do believe that the dominant Christian theory is that I would wake up in heaven if I have a good life. Yeah, I don't necessarily have to, just state something in advance. And so, to my Christian friends, yes, it's coming. I am now convinced that the risk-reward is completely smart. If it turns out that there's nothing there, I've lost nothing. If it turns out there is something there, and the Christian model is the closest to it, I win. So with your permission, I promise you that I will convert.
Now, Ray, there were some encouraging things and some questionable things in that statement. Give me your read.
I have been following Scott Adams probably for 10 years. He was one of the first people to begin to explain Donald Trump before he ever became president, persuasion techniques and all of that. Learned a great deal from Scott Adams over the years. He had just for context, Steve, he has prostate cancer that has advanced so much that there is no other treatment available. And I think he is down. I'm only taking from what he has said in other places. He's down to the last few days or the last few weeks. And I understand what's going on here. In this sense, when you're dying of cancer, you start thinking about what's going to happen next. And Steve, let me just begin here with one of the more interesting, every pastor in America ought to pick up on this. He said, I'm grateful, I'm paraphrasing, I'm grateful to my Christian friends for trying to convert me because it means they're taking their religion seriously. How serious should I take your religion if you believe in conversion, but you're not trying to convert me? That's exactly right. If you really believe Jesus is the only way to heaven, then you ought to be busy out telling everybody every way that you can. I think probably the one thing we can say is there's that story in the Gospels where Jesus had an encounter with a man. He ends up by saying, "You are not far from the kingdom." And I would say that about Scott Adams today, based on just what he has said. He's not far from the kingdom. And yet, it sounds like he still doesn't understand the grace of God. Because he said something like, Christians believe you live a good life and you go to heaven. No, that's actually the opposite of what we believe. He's not the first person who's been confused about the grace of God. I am praying very sincerely that the Lord will open his eyes here in these last days, and he will see how great a sinner he is and what a wonderful Savior Jesus is, and will by simple faith come into the kingdom. Last thing, Steve, we believe in deathbed conversions. I know they don't happen all the time, but look at the thief on the cross. If that fellow hanging on the cross could say, Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom, and Jesus say back to him, today you'll be with me in paradise. If there's hope for him, there's hope for you and me and Scott Adams too.
Tim?
Yeah, that's pray for him. Say a prayer for him today, Scott Adams there. Dilbert, that was back in the newspaper days when newspapers reigned, or at least still had a lot of circulation in America. I'm talking about physical newspapers that you pick up and read. Dilbert was probably a top 5 comic strip nationwide.
Absolutely.
So it was read by millions, and you said, Steve, earlier. So a lot of people, they know Dilbert. They may not know the creator's name necessarily. His name is Scott Adams. He's the one we're talking about. He was the one we heard there commenting a few minutes ago. All right, you're listening to today's issues on American Family Radio. Next story.
Are you a Chrome user? Do you use the browser Chrome? I do. It's the one I use. And we are finding out some disturbing news that there are 2 extensions called Phantom Shuttle that they look harmless, but behind the scenes, they are hijacking traffic and stealing sensitive data from all the users who use them.
Legally?
I don't know.
All right, again, I like to put things on the lower level, bottom shelf.
Yeah.
Not necessarily for me. I have a great understanding and wisdom of things that are really elevated. But I understand the life of the average person, too. And so I will say that you're talking about Chrome, you're talking about a web browser, right?
Right. If you want to go on the internet.
Like Brave or Firefox or DuckDuckGo or something like that, right?
Exactly.
So there's something called Chrome, which is very popular, right?
I think it's the default app, Microsoft browser.
Yeah. So you're saying that, well, you're not saying, I don't want to get sued here by Chrome. Okay, Steve, so make sure you source what you're talking about here.
Researchers at a place called Socket discovered 2 Chrome extensions using the same name, Phantom Shuttle. Now, these are extensions. You have to install them, and they are linked. They are.
Why would you install them?
They are used to test the speed of a connection, especially if you're away from
Okay. So what's the accusation?
That they route all your web traffic through proxy servers controlled by these people, and they steal very sensitive information. They can read your keystrokes.
That'll get you a bad reputation.
It will.
So is that so anyway? Well, you got to be careful with all your data and information out there. Do not click on links. Do not click on links on emails, probably from people you even know.
Yeah.
Right.
Huh?
Right.
And don't respond to text messages that you don't know who they're from. I mean, there's some common sense things that'll help you avoid being.
Well, and as a practical matter, if you've got Chrome, which I do, got to check your extensions because
That's
you
true.
never know.
How do you check your extensions, Ray? Do you know?
There's a
way to do it.
Help me out here, Steve.
On the upper right-hand side of the
That's
browser, there's 3 dots, and then you can go down and you can have a list of your extensions. It'll show you the extensions, and you can see what they are.
Like phone extensions, extension 227, 228, 229, that kind of thing.
It could be a metaphor for that.
Okay, all right, a metaphor. So check your extensions. So my daughter got a text the other day from an unknown person, said, "Are you still alive?"
Are you serious? What
is that? All it said?
Yes, that's all it said.
Question mark.
A text from somebody from an unknown number, and it just said, "Are you still?"
Question mark. Yeah.
Texted back, no, sorry.
Well, yeah, you get those. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. You get those every once in a while. At least most people I know do, and it's a trick by a scammer to get you to engage with them. That's what it's for. That's what they ask. They ask open-ended questions. My wife got one the other day. Said, "Hey, we're coming to town for a convention in Tupelo." It was like from some unknown number, and it was like AI. I said, "That's an AI generated. They somehow know your phone is area code." I mean, really, it's getting that sophisticated. The trickery out there
It is
getting
indeed.
It's getting that sophisticated. All right, next story, Steve.
All right. How bad are things getting in Iran?
I don't know, Steve. How bad are they?
Iran is a country that is it's experiencing a lot of turmoil. There's protests in the street. Donald Trump has warned Iran that if they are going to be shooting protesters, as they have done, that there will be a price to pay.
What now? He said what?
He's
Trump
warning Iran against shooting protesters in the streets.
Oh.
Because they have done that, and he's telling them that he's watching. But this is how bad they are. The Iranian government is trying to bribe its citizens, and it is saying it will give them a monthly payment of $7 to ease their
I'm in.
To ease their economic pressure.
Well, thank goodness. 2 gallons of gas.
Yeah.
2 gallons of gasoline.
That's it. If you're pretty desperate, if that's all you can afford.
You know, we can only hope and pray, and I'm being serious about this, for that this may spark some changes in Iran. We've seen this kind of thing before where it dies out, but there is, by all accounts, there is at least the beginnings of an uprising against the mullahs. The mullahs being the ayatollahs, well, no, there may only be one ayatollah. Maybe that's the supreme. But the Islamic religious leaders that have controlled Iran for so long now, there is an uprising against them. They run it as an Islamic dictatorship, basically, because the living conditions and the wages and people's ability to pay for the basic things of life is getting really, really difficult, and people are getting upset and angry. And also, there are a lot of Iranians who they want freedom. They want freedom from this oppressive religious regime.
Because they knew it in the day back in before 1976.
Yep. So we'll see what happens there. All right, Ray. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
And Steve.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. Wesley. Appreciate it. Let's see. Chris Woodward made a great contribution to this show today. Brent Creeley, and also
Jenna Ellis.
Jenna Ellis and Cole Green, too, as well. So we thank you for listening. We hope you'll stay with us here on AFR throughout the afternoon. Take care.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Wildmon, and I hope you're looking forward to a wonderful 2026. Let me tell you about a couple of things you might be interested